Hello, Andrews University. For those that don't know me, my name is Michelle Sabangan, and I'm currently a first-year physical therapy student here at Andrews. So if you haven't seen me around before, that's why. I'm in that building all day, dying and crying. Just kidding, I am going to class and studying. I actually took a pathophysiology test this morning, so shout out to Dr. Orison for letting me take that early, and shout out to my classmates who also made it here, and we're taking that this morning. We'll cry about our scores later. As a disclaimer, I'm not a speaker. I don't normally get up in front of a lot of people, and this is a lot of people, but I'm gonna try to talk slow and just be able to tell my story here. I love telling stories. Those who know me know that I get very animated. I get very excited, even telling like the smallest thing that happened to me this morning. Like, oh my goodness, there were overnight oats in the gazebo today. I was so excited. I went there, I bought it. I was just like, yeah, so pumped. Yeah, I love telling stories about things that happened to me. And I'm excited that I get to be up here and I get to tell you about one of the most life-changing, unforgettable, and amazing years of my life. So ever since my freshman year here at Andrews, I wanted to be a student missionary. Like, that was my plan. I came to Andrews freshman year. I was like, okay, I'm going to be a PT, but I'm also going to be a student missionary. And so that was my plan. That's where I was headed. So freshman year goes by, still have that plan. Sophomore year goes by. Junior year comes by, and something started to change. I remember getting to November, and I was supposed to start applying and thinking of like going as an SM, but I had reached this point where I felt so useless and discouraged. And I don't know if any of you have felt that before, but I just felt like no matter what I was doing here, I just wasn't making a difference. I wasn't making an impact. And I felt like I wasn't doing anything for God. And so I decided, I'm not going to be a student missionary, because if I'm so useless here on campus, like, why would God want me out there as a missionary for him? Like, what good could I do out there when I can't do anything here? So I remember deciding, okay, I'm not going to be a student missionary anymore. That was it. I'm not going. But then I was like, I don't know what I want to do now. So God, tell me, what do I need to do now that I have decided not to become a student missionary? And I kept hearing, be a student missionary. And I was like, no, God, you don't understand. Like, I can't go anymore. I'm useless for you here, so you don't want me out there. So, but what do you want me to do now? And I kept hearing, be a student missionary. And I was like, oh, no, God, that can't happen, and here's why. And I gave God a list of 7 reasons as to why I shouldn't go and be a student missionary. I can't go into all of the 7 reasons for time's sake today, but I remember praying to God and telling him, these are the 7 reasons I can't go, but God, tell me what you want me to do. And I remember praying that the Sunday before Thanksgiving break started, and crazy things started happening in the next 2 weeks. Those next 2 weeks were insane, and believe me when I tell you, I was going crazy, because every single one of those reasons that I had given to God was answered in 2 weeks. For example, one of my reasons was, God, I'm not accepted to the PT program yet. And that was my deal with him freshman year. I was like, God, I'm going to do the 3 years, get into the PT program, then I'll give you a year. And I remember thinking, well, physics is not looking so great this year, so I don't even think I'm going to get in. So God, I'm not accepted to the PT program, so I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going to stay here, do that 4th year. And then 2 days later, I get a call from the PT department saying, hello, congratulations, you're accepted to the PT program. And the crazy thing about Andrews is that for the PT program, if you get accepted and want to defer a year as a student missionary, they allow you to do that and come back, and they hold your spot for you. So, like, being a student missionary was going to be a possibility, and there were 7 reasons like that, and one by one, in the span of 2 weeks, all of those get answered. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be a student missionary. God, I can't argue with you. So I applied. To be a student missionary. I went to Christmas break, didn't really think about it. And then I came back in January. In January, like, when you apply to be a student missionary, you have to apply to different countries. And in order to do that, you need a passport. And my passport was going to expire. So I was like, oh no, I didn't even think about this. So I had to go and renew my passport and send it in. I was waiting for the passport to come back so I could sign up for countries. But then I start to look at the countries, and I just start freaking out again. I was like, oh no, where am I supposed to go? There's so many countries out there. There's so many places where like God could need me, but I don't want to go to the wrong one. Like, God, I need you to send me to the right one. Which one is it? God, speak to me. Nothing. And I was like, oh no, I can't hear God anymore. I heard him so clearly last semester, but this semester it's just like nothing. And I started freaking out. And I was like, oh no, God, do you even want me to be a student missionary? The 2 weeks like that happened, it's like I forgot it. And I remember freaking out and thinking like, I don't even have a passport here yet. I don't even know where I'm supposed to go. And then I remember sitting in those pews where you are 2 years ago listening to student missionaries returned, and they're talking about their experience, and I remember feeling so inspired and so encouraged, but I was still like, oh, God, where do you want me to go? And I remember listening to Matt's sermon that last Friday, and he went up and he was talking about his experience in Peru, and then at the very end, he goes, even if you don't know where you're supposed to go, God is going to put you where he needs you, and you just need to trust him. And I remember just being floored. And I was just like, oh my God, Matt didn't even know until I told him today that had happened 2 years ago. And I remember thinking, that's crazy. Like, God's speaking to me through Matt. And like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go. I'm going to sign up once I get my passport. And then that night, after Matt had spoken, I went back to the dorm, and my new passport had just arrived in the mail. And I was like, oh my goodness, God, there's just so many things that have happened, so many things that I thought were coincidence, that weren't coincidence, that I was like, oh man, I'm going as a student missionary. And so I ended up being chosen to go to Pagudpud, Philippines. So Pagudpud, Philippines is at the very top of the Philippines. So that's Ilocos Norte, and then that tiny thing at the top, the red part is Pagudpud. So that's where I was sent as an SM, as a medical assistant. It's such a beautiful place, and to be honest, guys, last winter I did not miss Berrien Springs at all. This was actually in January, and that was actually in like November. I didn't even miss it once, not once. I did hear about that thing called the polar vortex that you guys went through. Yep. Really glad I wasn't here for that. That was actually Christmas Day with all of my friends. And it was a great day at the beach. We celebrated Christmas all together. And so anyway, I went, and I was one of 12 student missionaries that went out there. So there were 12 of us that went from various Adventist colleges around the U.S. And if you look closer on the bottom one, the one all the way to the left in the red, her name is Ate April. She was sort of like our host. She became like our older sister. And since there were 12 of us, we kind of like self-proclaimed ourselves as the 12 disciples in Ate April. So we would go around Pagudpud. And so when we first got there, it was great. The first weeks, the first months were great. We saw waterfalls. We hiked there. We were able to jump off some of them. I'd never done that before, so that was really exciting for me. We got to see the town. We got to get to know the people. More scenery. That beach was 10 minutes from where we lived. And we got to experience the culture. That's my friend Marcus. He loves chickens. So he was so excited when he could walk around, and there was just a chicken by the side of the road, and he was like, let's pick it up. So he picked it up, and for those who know Filipino culture, you guys know what kamayan is, so that's what it is on the left. That's where we have a bunch of food on banana leaves, and you just eat with your hands, and it's so good. It's one of the best food experiences I've ever been to, and tasted, and we got to know the people, so those are some of my friends that we got to work with in the clinic. So we experienced a typhoon. Just a warning, the next picture, if you guys get queasy looking at wounds or bites, close your eyes for the next 5 seconds. I'll tell you when it's over. I got an infected bug bite, but thankfully God healed me and I wasn't sent home. Okay, I'll take it off the screen now. And it was just an amazing first couple weeks and month. The first month was just amazing, and I was feeling useful. I was like, God, yes. I'm feeling useful. I'm a student missionary. I'm out here doing stuff. I'm in the clinic. Yes, I'm never going to feel useless again. But then that feeling hit again. And I was so confused. I was like, God, wait, I'm supposed to feel used by you. I'm supposed to feel like I'm doing stuff, but that feeling of uselessness and you're not doing enough, you're not good enough, like came to me all the way out in the Philippines. And I remember feeling so sad because it happened a year before this in that November of where I was like, oh God, why? Why here? Why me? And I remember having many conversations with God, frustrated conversations with God in this place called the Crow's Nest. And so where we lived is this compound where they had the clinic, the church, and like the pavilion area, and that circled little thing was the crow's nest. It's on top of the roof. So we lived on the 3rd floor, and you could take a ladder to the crow's nest, and it was this beautiful view of entire Pagudpud. So you would look over, and one side you'd have the mountains, and then the other side you'd have the windmills, the beach, and the entire town just like spread out before you. And I would go up there and talk to God. So I remember having this conversation with God, and I was like, God, why do I feel so useless? I thought you called me here. You put me here. All those things that had happened before me coming here, that was not a mistake. Like, you called me here, but I feel so useless. And I remember sitting there at like 11:30, almost midnight. Everyone had gone to bed, and I was just frustrated. I was just getting all my frustrations out to God, and I'm like, God, you want me here, right? You put me here, but why? I feel like I'm not doing anything. Do you even care that I'm out here? And I remember laying down in silence, like kind of just, you don't even care. You don't even see me. And I was just so sad. And I remember looking up at the stars. There was no moon that night, so the stars were already like super bright, no light pollution, nothing. It was gorgeous. And I remember looking up and feeling so small. I remember feeling so small and insignificant and useless, and I was like, God, do you even see me? And I remember thinking that, and then I said it out loud, and I was like, God, do you even see me? And at that moment, I kid you not, the power in the entire town goes out, like boom, like power's down. And the sky gets 10 times brighter. It was like a movie. Like, I was like, oh, I was so scared at first. I was like, did I just cause like a power out? So like the town goes dark, the sky goes like 10 times brighter. And I remember looking up and then like breaking down, like, okay, God, you see me. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry that I ever doubted you. And like, and I remember feeling so encouraged by that. I remember running down, because I remember some of my friends that worked in the clinic, she was on like ER duty, she was out in the pavilion. I remember running down, I'm like, Ate, you don't believe what just happened. She's like, yeah, the power went out. I was like, no, like, you don't understand, it's so crazy. And from that moment, I knew God saw me, and no matter how discouraged I got after that, I wasn't down for too long, because I would think of that moment. There were definitely many times after that where I was so like, oh, what am I doing? I had no idea, and God, why am I here? But what I did know was that God saw me and that he had put me there for a reason. And that was my mentality, and the mentality of the SM group after that, like, we became intentional. I remember meeting together in the side room, because we all lived on the 3rd floor. All the guys lived in one room, all the girls lived in one room. Yes, 6 girls, 1 room, 1 bathroom. We got really close. And I remember all of us meeting together, and we were talking about how we wanted to do more. Like, we felt like we were working in the clinic, we were helping, and we're going with the church sometimes, but we felt like, oh, it's not enough. We want to do more. So we met. I remember my friend Ryan, he said, guys, we need to be intentional. We got to be intentional, guys. We got to go out. We got to be intentional about what we do, what we plan. And all of us were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's be intentional about service and what we want to do here. So we started planning, and the first event, haystack lunch. Come on. You can't go wrong with haystacks, right? So we made the haystack lunch for the community. We invited the church members. We invited all the kids we did VBS with. We set out so many chairs in the pavilion. We went to Lawag, which was the city 2 hours away, to buy chips, beans, all that stuff that you put on haystacks, and we set it out, and we were like, yes, this is going to be amazing. And guys, it was. So many people came. So many people loved the food. And no, it was a disaster. It was one of the worst things ever. We came, and no one really showed up. The kids that came were like, what is this weird food? Filipinos boil their vegetables, they fry their vegetables, they don't eat fresh vegetables, so they looked at the table and we had fresh lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and they're like, why is this not cooked? And Filipinos also eat lots of rice, so we had rice, but you use haystacks with chips and tortillas. So they're looking at the table and they're like, where's the rice? And so they're being really polite because they look at us and we're like, do you like it? And they're like, yes, it's so good. Where's the rice? Let's go to the back of the kitchen. And I remember feeling so sad. We all looked at those piles and piles of plates of uneaten food by the sink. And we were kind of discouraged after that, but we were like, no, you know what? Maybe that just wasn't it. Maybe we should do something else. Let's be intentional, guys. Let's do other things, do other things. And so we did other things. That didn't work out, so we tried different things. We tried free blood pressure in the market. So we lived right next to the market in town, and because the clinic was kind of close to the market, we were able just to go to the market during market days and sit there and give free blood pressure to the people passing by. And if their blood pressure was high, we'd be like, hey, the clinic is over there. And it was an opportunity for us to connect with the community, say hi to the people in the community, and for them to know us. And it was actually kind of cool because I would see one person come in, we'd take their blood pressure, we'd say hi, and then we'd see them in the clinic like the next day, and they're like, I actually needed to come to the clinic because I had more than just high blood pressure. And I was like, wow, it's so cool to see you here though. Hope you get better. But we did lots of things like that, like free blood pressure. We put on a Christmas play. Look at my friend Maddie being the star of the show. She made sure everybody knew that. We had a lot of fun entertaining the kids, telling them the story of Jesus with the Christmas play, and it was just a way for the community to come together and to connect. The guys actually started a basketball ministry. So for those who don't know, Filipinos love basketball. Like, they love basketball. Like, we played with a kid named LeBron James and like Steph Curry. Like, those are actual names of the kids in the Philippines. So Filipinos love basketball. And so every morning at 6:30, there would be people playing at the basketball court near our clinic. So the guys decided, hey, let's do something with that. Let's play with them. Let's start a ministry. And my friend Ryan, I remember him being like, oh yeah, we'll get a Vespers together. We'll get like people to come. And he was so excited. He got planned a whole thing, and only one guy showed up in the beginning. I remember Ryan feeling so discouraged, but we were talking about it. We're like, dude, just keep at it, just keep going. And by the end, that was the kamayan they had during the last week of us being Pagudpud. There were people calling Ryan brother and crying that Ryan was leaving because they had gotten so close and they had become like family to everybody. We also, I don't know if anyone remembers the bandwagon project. We needed to raise money for a van for the clinic. So last year, those who bought stickers, bought shirts, and helped us out, we actually did buy a van, and that's the van that was purchased through all those shirts and stickers that you bought. So thank you so much for helping. But we did this because we looked for what the clinic needed, and we looked, and we were just like, okay, they need a van. What can we do? And we were intentional about it. We looked for it, and this happened. And my friends from the Philippines actually told me, they're like, tell them, everyone, thank you from whatever university you went to. So this is me extending their thanks and gratitude towards you. And that was it. There was a lot of stuff that we did. We did ukulele choirs. One of our, yeah, the little girl in the front, look at this. I zoomed up on her face once, and I was like, that is a mood. One of the SM's parents actually came and visited, and we bought 20 ukuleles for the community. And so we would go out and have ukulele choirs and teach the kids how to play music. And it was just another one of those things that we were really intentional about, and we were really we want to do something. And we did that for the entire year, and by the time we left, we were so sad, and we were so grateful, though, for the people that God had put us with and for the time that we had there. And I know my time is coming to an end, and if you ask a student missionary, how was your time in the Philippines, and you don't give them 3 hours, it's usually good. It was great. But we went through so much, and we experienced so much, and that was just a really, really short and condensed version of what happened during my year in the Philippines. But the point that I want you to take from my story is that God is intentional. He was intentional with everything that happened to me before going to the Philippines, like all that 2-week answering prayer thing, and then the week of prayer, and then where he wanted me to go. He was intentional about who I went to the Philippines with. Oh, there's Albert and my kids. He was intentional about who I met. He was intentional about that night under the stars. None of this happened by accident, and none of this happens by accident. This could have been the 1 week of prayer service that you were like, oh, I don't think I want to go to this one. I got a lot to study for, and I'm not offended. That's okay. But now you're sitting here and listening to me speak, and that was God being intentional. Maybe he wanted me to tell you that he sees you and that he loves you and that he's calling you to be a missionary for him. I don't know. I don't know what God is doing in your life, but I know what he's done in mine. And I know that he's calling me every day just like he's calling you every day to serve and to love the people around you just like Jesus did. He's intentional, and he has put us where we are for a reason. He's intentional with who he puts in our lives. He knows why you are where you are, even though you don't see it. You might be wondering, like me, why God, why here, why me? And I'm here to tell you it's because he's called you and he has a plan for you. I know it sounds super cliche, but he's called you and he has a plan for you. So just as God is intentional with us, let's be intentional with him and look for him in our daily lives. I encourage you to answer his call and to look for where he needs you and be the student missionary he calls you to be. Whether that be right here at Andrews or in a country far, far away across the world, let's put feet to our faith and take that step towards serving God no matter where we are. Please bow your heads with me. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you that we are here and we are before you. God, you know everything that's going to happen. You've put us in a certain place with certain people for a reason, and let us not forget that. Help us to be intentional with you and help us to be intentional with the service that we want to do for you. We thank you for everything you've given us, and in your name, amen.